About 3 years ago, I traded in my office for my MacBook and a Wi Fi network and a life of working remotely in the cloud. Now, I was terrified of three things: of losing my local brand, the brokerage that I was within, and what that could mean to my business, to the clients that worked with me. I was also worried about drowning in new, confusing tech that I was not familiar with. And I was also feeling like I might be lost, like the new kid at school, and just not know if I fit in. Here's how each of those fears played out. So the first one again is leaving my brokerage. Will I lose consumer client trust? I had spent years under my brokerage logo. Sellers saw it next to my name on every single lawn sign, on every single business card and advertisement. And the day that I switched, I was bracing myself for backlash from consumers, from past clients. But what actually happened is me learning that a personal brand is bigger than the corporate brand that's behind your name. Nothing happened. Nobody cared. People work with me because of who I am and what I deliver. The brokerage name behind my name on my business card did not affect anyone's decision to work with me. I had 18 active listings, and I had conversations with every single one explaining my move, and I received zero pushback or hesitation. Every single one signed the piece of paper that was needed for me to take that listing over, and life carried on. Not one commented, "Who's Real Broker?" Even though it was brand new to the province, so no one actually knew who Real Broker was. They just didn't care. The brokerage just powers the back end. You remain who you are when you make that change. Now, it's not to say that Real is not a legitimate company, but even if the consumer doesn't know about them, it doesn't affect their decision. In reality, Real is massive, of course. It grew in agent count 61% last year, and it's just this huge juggernaut that's the fastest growing real estate brokerage in North America. We know that as agents, but the consumer doesn't know that. They just know that they want to work with you. Clients hire and work with the people that they trust, not the logo behind their names. Now, fear number two. Am I going to drown in new apps and in dashboards and in logins and in confusing tech? My computer already had multiple CRMs, most of which I didn't use, 37 tabs open on my browser. And the idea of adding in a new Leo AI, the Real Wallet, Rezen, Real Academy, my eyes started to twitch. The guided onboarding is super smooth. Real Academy hits you with simple video starter package path. It's easily done over a lunch break. It's palatable. It's simple. There's not multiple places that you need to log in. You log into Reason and everything's there. There's live help on tap. Real Academy hosts hundreds of hours of live and on-demand training every single week. I bookmarked a few that I wanted to tune back into later during the week. One talking to me about Real Wallet, one talking to me about how Reason worked. I was able to hit up those courses later, and they filled me in on everything that I needed to know. It just worked. The tech is smooth. There are tutorials and there are videos about how it works. But the CTO, Pritesh, his philosophy is that if you have to read a manual to figure out how something works, he's failed. He said it's like picking up an iPhone. It should be intuitive. You shouldn't have to read a tutorial on how to find the text messages and send to somebody. You should be able to look at it and just click and get right through it. And that's his mindset when he develops everything for Real. It should be so intuitive that if you're like, where do I find this thing? And you look, you'll find it. You'll be able to operate it. Now, my third fear was, again, about leaving. Would I be by myself? No office, no group of friends and agents the relationships that I developed over the years. I enjoy, hallway banter and impromptu contract collapse stories at the photocopier in the hallway. A cloud-based brokerage, it sounded like selling houses in a cold, dark, and lonely place. But what actually happened? Rather than isolation and loneliness, there is actually quite the opposite. There's a mastermind overload in a good way. Real Academy has over 30 live masterminds every single week, and they're recorded. It's too much. There's too much to take in. So really you got to pick and choose, but you're not going to miss out because it's not just one person talking. It's collaboration. It's a call where everyone is encouraged. Have your camera on. Hey, turn the mic on. Let's talk about this. Let's have some input here. We host monthly coffee shop meetups here for the crew that's working within our locale. It's a great way to get together in person, to get to know those relationships that are strengthened, and the referrals just start coming back and forth. Stats really back up the shift. Nationwide, only 12.5% of Canadians still work exclusively at an office. When COVID shut everything down, we proved that everybody can work remotely for the most part. There's going to be exceptions. But in real estate, absolutely. It made it very clear to me that you don't need to go into the office. So now Real has just adopted that. It's kept costs lower for Real, of course, as a brokerage. Their overall fees are lower because they're not paying for these buildings and insurance on these buildings. They're able to pour more money back into the tech, back into the brokerage, and then back into us with the revenue share model. It's not keeping all the profits. It's dispersing a portion of the profits back to agents that are growing the company. So in the end, it turns out that culture is not about a drywalled office. It's not only found in that office or that office down the road. Culture is found in conversation, it's people, and it's relationships. So losing the brokerage logo that was behind my name, learning the tech, missing the chatter, those were major concerns that I had. But the reality is that the bigger reach that I now benefit from, my business has only grown and improved. The tech might be one of the best parts of Real. And I'm part of a great network of awesome agents that are really collaborating and growing together. If you're considering about making the switch, let me know in the comments, what's your biggest fear about going cloud-based? Let's unpack it together. Let's have a conversation and see what plugging your business into Real Broker would look like. Reach out if you'd like to have a conversation like that.